Hi, good evening. I'd like to call the March 13th, 2024 work session to order. We have just one item tonight. At this time, I just turn it over to Josh. Actually, before that, let's call the roll.
Simple.
Here.
Rudine. Marsh.
Here.
Aguilar. Zuckerman.
Here.
Erstad.
Here.
Bull.
Here.
5 present, 2 absent.
Great, thanks. Josh?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. At the December 13th, 2023 design review public hearing, the St. Luke's North Tower and Medical Office Plaza buildings were approved with a condition to return to a public work session at 50% design development, and then provide some additional details on materials and the proposed soffit treatments on the north and east elevations. So the applicant has submitted materials, are back before you tonight to satisfy that condition of approval. As a reminder, the property here is located to the north of the existing hospital building at the intersection of Fort and Avenue B. The Medical Office Plaza will extend across First Street to the west, with the North Tower to the east, more towards the corner near the roundabout. The specific areas of detail for the soffit treatments are along the north and east elevations. Additionally, the applicant has refined slightly the exterior elevations on the upper floors, and we'll review those in subsequent slides. The applicant is also here to answer any questions and give a brief presentation as well. So the north elevation, again, facing Fort Street, there was some refinement to the window patterning on that extension over First Street. There is a screen wall on the east side of the building at the ground level. And then additionally, some material refinement was done on that ground level. That was part of a lot of the discussion at the December hearing, was that pedestrian experience at that ground floor, what those materials were, what those finishes looked like. There has been some additional refinement here in terms of colors and then how that soffit is treated. The east elevation, again, pretty minor changes to the upper elevations, and the applicant can detail those, but some window patterning and material changes were made. Similarly, on the south elevation, especially in that Medical Office Plaza extending over First Street, there were some refinements to the window patterning and materials. And then again, continuing on the west elevation, there were some of those same changes. The bulk, though, of the materials provided and the discussion tonight is about that soffit treatment at the ground floor on the north and east elevations, depicted here near the main entrance, in pretty close proximity to that extension over First Street. The proposed soffit is EIFS and metal paneling, I believe, and the applicant can confirm this, but I believe it's some aluminum, some ACM panels on that soffit in an off-white to match that the window system and materials on the elevation above that soffit. A second view of that, just same general area near the main entrance, shows some areas of the EIFS with the ACM accents. The reflected ceiling plan included in your packet details the areas of those ACM accents. They're kind of on the perimeter of the soffit, and then there is a large, you can see in this image here, there is a large area of ACM in a circular pattern on that. And then again, largely EIFS with ACM used as a accent material. With that, I think I would stand for any questions. I'll let the applicants give their presentation, get into greater detail in their design changes here. We have recommended approval of the submitted materials and that the condition placed on the application has been met. So thank you.
Good. Thanks, Josh. Questions for staff at the moment? None? The applicant like to come forward and present. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
So going back to the first slide, kind of where it
thank you. I guess maybe you couldn't hear me. So let's jump back to the first slide where we see the site and remind ourselves, this is a pointer, right? So right here, you can get a glimpse of that area that we're talking about, the soffit area, where First Street comes through. And if we go to the next plan here, I think there's a plan that shows a reflected ceiling of that.
I'll pull that up.
Okay. That'll be key to the conversation here. So one of the things that with First Street we're dealing with is a height restriction or a need to be at 17 feet high at a minimum at its tightest spot. And then from there, when we drive into the drop-off circle, then we're able to reduce that or have some articulation in the soffit area. And we'll take a look at that a little closer when we have that reflected ceiling up. And Josh, is it possible to zoom into this specific area here? Thank you. So right through here is where we have where we're complying with that roadway 17-foot area. And then this line right here. So as the articulation, this curved element of the building curves around here, we take that, it's a curtain wall, glass and metal panel as Josh described. And then we wrap that underneath the building, continue that ACM metal under the soffit, as you got a glimpse of that in our rendering that we'll take a look at a little bit further. So there's that border material, and then the main area, the field of the soffit is EIFS material, and then we use the metal panel to border as well as accentuate places of importance as the pathway in from the parking garage into the building. There's seating along the way, and then this is the main entrance, and so there's accenting that, as well as this main public face of from the street, from Fort Street, and the monument stairs that come into the plaza there. So that's the main story of the soffit, as well as continuing those lines along the edge of the street, and they're part of the story of wayfinding and giving indicators that lead you to the main entrance plaza. So, and then does this change for me, or do you need to change it? Switching the image, am I able to? So I don't know if there's, being a work session, I don't know if there's any questions that you want to bring up or any.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I think this is an awesome exhibit. I appreciate the care that went into integrating these treatments into the floor plan and kind of expressing some of these similar design cues. The part of the soffit that I particularly was asking about was more along the street edge,
Okay.
under the brick cladding. And we get a glimpse of that there in that RCP, but it looks like that's just going to be EIFS out to the edge.
I'll jump back to and that might have been some of my confusion when we had our meeting a couple months ago, thinking was mainly about the larger area, but so we don't really show that in the rendering, in any view in that rendering. But if let's see, let's go to that. Where is that soffit again? Is that in here?
If we could go back to the
Is that
RCP, I
on
think
a
that.
separate, okay, sorry.
I mean, and you remember it, and so we can talk about it as he's pulling it up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and this is probably more a matter of personal taste than any specific design theme, but it looks to me when we have these ephes soffits that come down to a masonry cladding, it kind of detracts from the weight of the masonry cladding, where you can see just kind of that edge and the two just meet on the corner. I'd love to see that masonry return at least to the depth of the columns, so it gives it that same feeling of heft along that.
I hear
that-
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if I can point here. So along this edge here where we have the colonnade,
Correct.
currently we have a corbelled detail of the brick that comes in. And what you're getting at is maybe that if we can continue that brick to some depth as opposed to just a brick depth.
I think it would just add one
give a little more
further
strength
degree
to
of
the-
refinement
yeah,
to the design.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So maybe we can look at reinforcing that as that turns under a little more. And then there's an additional step as we come back to this. I've seen my shaky hand here, but you can see that line there. We actually have a need for some a plenum, air plenum. So it has an additional step there. And so there's a border of that metal panel that borders that step down to the next level. It's not a large step, but it gives us just enough for that plenum along there. But yes, that's a great comment to consider as we detail that brick into the ephes. I definitely agree that it does give it a more solid look. So.
I just appreciate you guys taking the time and putting the additional thought into all of this. I think this is nicely composed.
Great, thank you. Anything else we want to look at here?
Other questions? I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Any members of the public wishing to come up and testify to this work session? Any online, Josh? All right, I don't think we have anything else.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Other questions for staff? None? All right. Well, I'd be open for a motion, guys. Oh, yep.
We do have one more that
Yep, feel free to come on up and, again, if you don't mind, since it was off before,
Reminding me.
you mind restating your name and
Charles
address?
Bagley with Architectural Nexus. And going to the last slide, we did want to bring up we have the bulk of our mechanical equipment exists in penthouses and within the building framework. But we did, as this has gotten more in-depth into the design, there are areas where the ductwork has to come outside of the building. So if you don't mind, Josh, zooming into the first upper left corner. So our strategy is, the bulk of our mechanical equipment exists in these penthouses and within this area. And you can see the areas in color are where ductwork has had to come out of the building envelope. And we feel like that this is in an area where it's, out of sight from street level. You have to be significant distance away, that we aren't currently showing any screening of that. And of course, up here even higher is even further away from sight. We feel from a patient view, they're screened for the people inside the building. We do want to bring that up and then as we go to another view of the building, if you go to right here, where we have on this lower level, we are showing where we're screening some of this ductwork that comes above the roof. And mainly for adjacent St. Luke's buildings, as well as potentially across the street and that sort of thing. But that's the direction that's the strategy we're employing for these conditions. And just wanted to I think that was something that was brought up in our previous meeting, and we just wanted to make sure we're fitting in with what the committee here is seeing for the project.
Does that show up on your elevations at all by chance? Or
Let's
is that
see,
just-
yeah, let's go to the elevations and
Not quite, does
And I'm not sure if it does show, but for instance, oh yeah, there is that area where we are screening it. And I'm not sure, I believe in an elevation, a lot of this would be hidden because it's not a perspective view. Parapets are a decent height, 42 inches. And so, and then distance from the edge of the roof, it's gonna be hard to see a lot of these. You can get a glimpse of that right here, I believe.
The roof membrane's white on the main roof membrane.
Yes.
Okay. And ducts are insulated on the outside, or what is the finish on the duct?
I don't have the answer to that. I'm not I don't know that I'm the right answer for that. Adam is the right person. Yes, they will be insulated.
Okay, questions concerning that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think it's a question for staff. Josh, is the screening because of the condition of approval that was placed for full height? Did the staff review these and determine that they met the condition of approval there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Simple, yes. So you can see in several locations on the elevations where you can see that mechanical screening that does meet the condition of full height.
Okay.
And the other areas seem to, and through the applicant's testimony, appear to be covered by the parapet if they are not screened with a mechanical screen. So yes, we would feel that does meet the condition.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, if I
Yep,
could,
yes.
so for the applicant, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are in agreement with the revised conditions of approval that were provided in the work session memo.
All right.
Or you are?
I believe so.
Okay.
I
Great.
apologize for it's kind of a squishy answer there, but. I
No,
believe we're in
that's,
compliance.
yeah. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right. No more questions? Bring it back to the committee for discussion and a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a stab at motion. Need the item number?
Here.
Yes.
I would move to approve the work session drawings dated received February 6th, 2024 per the discussion, findings, and revised conditions of approval contained in the work session memo for the hearing dated March 13th, 2024.
Second.
Great. It's the memos dated March 6th, I think, right? Just clarification, isn't it? Where's, I'm looking.
Mr. Chair, I'm just reading from the suggested motion.
Oh, okay.
That was the date they had, so if it's March 6th, I can revise my motion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Simple, referencing the date of the hearing is just fine in
Okay.
terms of like the condition and the findings. Yeah.
All right.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Gabe? Discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I will be recusing myself from this vote. My family works at St. Luke's.
Okay, thank you. With this point, Christina, will you please call the roll?
Simple,
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Erstad,
Yes.
Bull,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Any other items? Just want to go to the rest of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we'll just quickly go through the agenda for this evening. Then we'll have a good 20 minutes here before the hearing. So for new business, we have a deferral. Item number 1 is requesting deferral. And I think that's, date specific to April 10th to the next month's hearing.
Item 1's deferral to, what,
Item number 2, we will hear, there has been some updated information. They went to city council last week, and there was some slight changes. So We'll hear that one just to get a refresh of some information. And then item number 3, we will hear as well,
Remind me, what was the date in April?
April 10th.
Great, thank you.
And with that, we'll see you back here at 6.
Thanks, Josh. We are adjourned on our work session. Thank you. I'd like to call the March 13th, 2024 Design Review Commission meeting to order. Start, Christina, will you please call the roll?
Semple,
Here.
Rudine, Marsh,
Here.
Aguilar, Zuckerman,
Here.
Erstad,
Here.
Bull,
Here.
5 present, 2 absent.
Next item here is to get a motion on the minutes. We have 2 of them, the Design Review Commission meeting minutes for February 14th, 2024. And we also have Design Review Commission work session minutes for the same date, February 14th, 2024.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Ms. Simple?
I move approval of the Design Review Commission meeting minutes dated February 14th, 2024, and the Design Review Commission work session minutes dated February 14th, 2024.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Motion? Hearing
Mr.
none?
Chair, I will
Yes.
recuse myself. I was not present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stead.
Same here, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Ms. Zuckerman. With that, I will, Christina, you do a roll call vote?
Semple,
Aye.
Marsh,
Aye.
Bull,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
We have one item up for deferral tonight. It is item number DRH 23-00391. Location is 6614 West State Streets for the construction of a new car wash building with associated site improvements on a property in a C2D zone. This item will be deferred to the April 10th, 2024 hearing. Is there any member of the audience wishing to speak to this item who cannot make the April 10th date? Seeing none in person, any online, Josh? And that concludes our items for deferral tonight, and I would be open to take a motion on the deferrals.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr.
I
Stead.
move that we defer item DRH 23-00391 to the April 10th meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Zuckerman. Thank you. Christina, will you do a roll call vote?
Semple,
Aye.
Marsh,
Aye.
Zuckerman,
Aye.
Erstad,
Aye.
Bull,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. First item to be heard on tonight's hearing is item number 2, it's DRH 23-00347. Location is 540 West Overland Road. With this, I will turn it over to Rachel when available.
Can you hear me okay?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the Commission. Rachel Farrell, Design Review Planner for the City of Boise, and before you is project DRH 23-00347. Please note that this project was reviewed under the Legacy Code. So the project is located at 12548 West Overland Road on a 5.4 acre site in a C2D DA zone. The site is currently vacant and is designated commercial. The surrounding area is comprised of single and multifamily residential uses and some commercial uses at the intersection of Overland and Cloverdale. Additionally, the property is within the floodplain of the 5 Mile Creek. And recently, Planning and Zoning Commission approved a conditional use permit for a planned mixed-use development. And last week, the City Council approved a modification to the development agreement to allow residential and expanded commercial uses. So the project would construct 5 new buildings with 156 residential units, including 1 mixed-use building, which would house approximately 6,000 square feet of retail space. The retail space would be located on the ground floor of Building D, facing Overland. One driveway access is proposed off Overland Road, which has been made safe for pedestrians with a delineated crossing and a landing space on a median. The applicant has included internal pedestrian connectivity along with thoughtful outdoor gathering spaces located in the front near the retail space and towards the middle of the site for the residents. However, staff did find insufficient connections to the retail space and the shared use path on Overland and could not make the findings that the pedestrian environment was enhanced by these ground floor activated uses. So we conditioned the project to include additional connections. And along with a 10-foot wide shared use path along Overland, the applicant has been conditioned in the plan unit development to provide a 14-foot wide public access easement to accommodate a future pathway along 5 Mile Creek in order to connect the city of Meridian and its pathway plan. So as a result of the city council hearing last week, the applicant updated their mobility plan to include the new findings that will be added to the development agreement. And then council asked that the development agreement include language that would connect to the future pathway along 5 Mile Creek around the perimeter of the site and to Overland Road, where there's a new transit stop proposed on the eastern side of the site. As a result, the applicant has submitted this plan as new material to be presented at the Design Review Commission to consider in their decision. And the black dotted line shows the circular connection around the perimeter of the site to connect the future pathway along 5 Mile Creek and the shared use path along Overland Road. And the blue dotted line shows the internal pedestrian connection. The design of the buildings incorporates durable materials such as brick. They feature bay windows and carefully crafted cornice roof lines. The structures are appropriate for this setting and will enhance surrounding areas. So with that, staff recommends approval of DRH 23-00347 with conditions outlined in the staff report. So staff is available to answer any questions, and additionally, the applicant is available online to present and answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Great. Does the commission have questions for staff at the moment?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Paul.
what was the material of the pedestrian path?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Bolt, are you referring to the material of the path or the material presented to us?
I guess, yeah, what's presented.
So this new plan, as I put in the presentation, is what they have provided to us after what council recommended last week in terms of providing like a circular connection around the site. So then the proposed future pathway along 5 Mile Creek can eventually connect with Overland, because before they didn't have any connection that would bring Overland up to that path.
Got it. But are these like concrete pathways throughout the site?
Oh, the pathway, yes. So concrete, I believe, although I'll leave that up to the applicant. I didn't get any specific materials as of yet. The future plan pathway along 5 Mile Creek, I think, is just an easement at this point, so we won't have materials on that. But throughout the site, it should be concrete. And I can let the applicant speak to what the materials are for the circular pathway, if that's what you're referring to.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Simple.
I'm going to follow up on that a little bit. You said this in the floodplain. Is any part of that pathway in the floodway? Do you know? Or is there a floodway right there? I know it's more of a channelized canal, but
I'm going to leave that up to the applicant to answer.
okay.
I don't have it on this drawing.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions for staff at the moment? All right. This time we turn it over to the applicant, who I believe is online. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Yes,
name?
this is Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. This is Amanda Bidwell, 8701 West Hackamore Drive in Boise. Staff did a fantastic job summing up the project, so I will be quick. But we do intend for that pathway to be concrete. The circular one that goes around the property will be concrete, and none of that is in a floodway. It's just in the floodplain at this moment. The pathway along the north side that would be along 5 Mile Creek is an easement for the time being. You can see that that the red line on the exhibit is the top of embankment. So we're proposing to stay away from that for right now, but with the potential of connecting that to Meridian in the future. The buildings are designed kind of with a New York brownstone style, the kind of change up a little bit from a lot of the multifamily that's been going on, but still fit in with the greater Boise area. And so that's what our proposal is. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the commission for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Stitt.
I don't know if it's a question so much as maybe a suggestion, if we could go back to that circulatory pattern. You're gonna end up with people on that northeast corner that just walk across your landscaping there anyway. It would probably make sense to connect your pathway there to the future easement. I know it's not in place currently, but it might just be something worth keeping in mind as you go forward. And I could see the same thing happening on the western property boundary as well. Just since there's a straight shot to the pathway, I don't think people are going to continue walking through the site to get to that one connection point. But it's just something to note for down the line, I guess.
Okay, Mr. Stead. Other comments, thoughts, applicant, from the commission? Any online or, I'm sorry, I guess that's it, unless you have anything else on that for the applicants? Is any member of the neighborhood association here? Okay. When able, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Hello?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name's Marissa Keith, and I'm at 3279 South Cloverdale Road in Boise. And I'm the president of the Southwest Data County Alliance Neighborhood Association. I know that one of our board members had written in some comments, mostly surrounding the trees and noise abatement and light abatement. I think our biggest issue with this development is not something that design review can fix. And so we are deciding whether to take that up with city council again. And that's a cross access agreement for vehicles to the property that goes to the west of there. But overall, just looking at the pictures of the buildings and the landscaping design, it looks very nice. We always prefer to have things built sooner rather than later. So if there was a developer on the other side of Cloverdale that did agree to build the pathway as part of the development and not wait on that, even though it also will not have an immediate connection. And we would love for the developer to step up and do that as well, even though it won't have an immediate connection. It's still just that little area would still be used by the future residents there. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to testify on this item tonight? Seeing none in person, any online, Josh? Okay, would the applicant have any additional comments? Doesn't sound like it. So with that, we'll close the public portion of the testimony, bring back to the, what's that? Oh, okay. Is the applicant, yep.
Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
was
Oh,
stuck.
yep.
with you. We do have the developer here. as well. Wade, I'm not sure if you would like to comment on potentially building that future pathway sooner than later.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
This is Wade Thomas. My address is 12,300 West New Hope Road way out in Star, Idaho. So thanks for having us. Sorry we couldn't be there in person tonight. Kid duties, to say the least. The only comment I wanted to make was kind of and I'll comment on the pathway. There was a question, Commissioner, I missed the last name, on the floodway. The project is actually out of where we're going to construct the floodway is actually on the back side of the parcel, but is on the other side of 5 Mile Creek, which will not be developed in any way. So the entire project stays on the south side of the creek. And with regards to the pathway, our preference is to keep that as an easement, but we are also open to pulling those pathways on the east and west so that they would connect to any future pathway if it gets developed in the future.
Thank you. Other questions for?
Thank you.
Hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the testimony here tonight, bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion. Seems pretty straightforward. Anybody have any concerns? No?
No, Mr. Chair, I think it's exciting to see something that's not, ranch house that's 4 feet tall, 4 stories tall. So hope to see this moving forward. And I appreciate the connectivity between Overland and that pathway. Just makes for a good neighborhood.
Yep. Well, with that, anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
move that we approve item DRH 23-00347 according to the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions of approval outlined by staff.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Zuckerman. Any discussion on the motion tonight?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just like to add that I appreciate the brownstone-esque style of the buildings and agree with Commissioner Erstad that it's nice to see something that's a little bit different and thoughtful. And I think it's the right scale for that part of town.
Yep. All right, there's no more discussion. Christine, will you do a roll call vote?
Simple.
Aye.
Marsh.
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
Bull.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, moving on. Next item is item number 3. It's DRH 24-00031, locations 3150 West Main Street. And,
Mr. Chair, I'm going to
Yes, Mr.
recuse myself from this discussion.
okay. With that, I will turn it over to staff for the presentation. Caitlin, when you're ready.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm going to be presenting items DRH 2431 and DRH 2437 together tonight. And then we will be asking the Commission to make 2 motions, one for each application. Also of note, this project was submitted and reviewed under the new zoning code effective December 2023, which we're calling the modern zoning code. This project is located at 3150 West Main Street at the northwest corner of Main Street and Whitewater Park Boulevard. The site is approximately 10 acres and it is in the MX5 mixed-use downtown zone. The Boise River and Greenbelt run along the southwest and there is a multifamily development directly north. Across Whitewater Park Boulevard to the northeast is Whittier Elementary School. The overall project consists of 5 buildings: the CWI building at the southeast corner, a mixed-use parking garage in orange, a residential and retail building in yellow, a hotel building in blue, and a retail building in the green. The applications before the commission tonight are DRH 2431 for the overall plan and site work and DRH 2437 for the CWI building at that southeast corner. The other buildings will be submitted through future applications. The planning team is recommending a more robust phasing plan be provided for a future work session, and we'd recommend that it include construction timelines, proposed staging layouts for each phase, and a proposed occupancy plan. There are 2 vehicular access points proposed, one at the northeast corner at Whitewater Park Boulevard and one on Main Street between the CWI and retail buildings. The applicant is proposing that the roads internal to the development will be private, but will be provided with public use easements. And they will have some on-street parking, but the majority of the parking for the development will be within the mixed-use parking garage building and the residential building. In the MX5 zone, there is no required parking, and surface parking lots are not allowed. Bike parking is required based on the size of each use, and we'd like to see the bike details for the overall development at a future work session to ensure there is adequate space being provided. We'd also recommend that civil and grading and drainage plans and a full landscape drawing set be submitted for that future work session. This is a mobility plan which shows primary pedestrian circulation routes in red, bicycle routes in blue, and transit in green. The applicant will be constructing new sidewalk improvements along Main Street and Whitewater Park Boulevard. The applicant is proposing a plaza area between the CWI building and the residential building. There are also sidewalks internal to the development along those internal roads. The planning team would like to see more information about how the project interfaces with the Greenbelt. Along the north of the site, the applicant is providing a multi-use pathway that allows users to travel through the site without vehicle conflicts. At the northeast of the site, the planning team is recommending a rectangular rapid flashing beacon or a pedestrian hybrid beacon crossing to provide safe and convenient crossing and a connection to Whittier Elementary School. A bus stop will also be installed on Main Street near the east side of the property per Valley Regional Transit specifications. The applicant is also working through a protected bike lane design for Main Street. The applicant has come up with 2 bike lane designs for the commission's feedback. The applicant will continue to work with city staff, ACHD, VRT, and other agencies on a final design for a future work session. This first design locates a 2-way bike lane adjacent to the sidewalk, separated with vertical curb and separated from the street by the landscape. And the second design shows a 2-way bike lane separated from the sidewalk by the landscape and separated from the roadway by a curb barrier. If the commission has any preferences for how the applicant proceeds with the bike lane design, you can provide those in your comments. Now moving over to focus on DRH 2437, the CWI building. This is an aerial perspective from the southeast corner. This building is 8 stories in height and drops down to 2 stories at the street corner. The building will contain commercial, retail, and restaurant uses on the ground floor and office uses and CWI classrooms on the upper floors. The planning team is recommending the applicant modify the design at the corner to provide either a direct public entry into the building or a direct pedestrian route from the street corner into the plaza. This corner is a designated high visibility street corner, which should provide direct site or building access. And additionally, the zoning code has maximum setback requirements that the applicant will need to comply with. So an updated design for the corner can be submitted for a future work session. I will let the applicant discuss the design intent of the building, but this is the east elevation. The proposed materials include masonry and metal panel on the lower floors and EIFS on the upper floors. This is the south elevation, so facing Main Street. This is the west elevation. So this is facing that future retail building and the plaza. The planning team is recommending the applicant reduce the amount of EIFS on those upper floors to probably small areas of lower visibility. So this is the west elevation. So this is the north elevation. The west elevation, and then that updated design with a smaller amount of EIFS or replacing the EIFS could be provided at a future work session. So this is a perspective from the northeast of the building, showing some of that plaza seating area. And this is another perspective from Main Street. And this is a perspective, I believe, like standing in the plaza, looking at that north elevation. So we are requesting two motions, one for DRH 2431, the overall plan and site work, and one for DRH 2437, the CWI building. We would recommend approval with a future public work session for both items. I do have the list of recommended conditions and the recommended work session items that we can walk through if you would like. I do have a correction on condition C in the project report. It says northwest and it should say northeast. So with that, I can answer any questions or we can hear from the applicant team.
Good. Thank you, Caitlin. Questions at this moment for the staff? Nope. All right. At this point, we'd invite the applicant forward to present. And if you would please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Tom Peterson. I'm the Chief Development Officer and Legal Counsel for BVA 1144 South, Silverstone Way, Suite 500 in Meridian, Idaho, 83642. Very appreciative of the opportunity to continue to work with everyone actually in respect to this project. Just as a quick thank you, we I think we're the first or maybe the second to come in under the new code and the new program. It has been phenomenal, and I'm not just saying that for effect. It has been tremendous in every way, and a huge compliment to city staff, to this commission for guiding the community under this. This is a significant improvement, and we are the guinea pigs, and we're grateful for it. So just wanted to pass that along. This has been a collaborative effort with city staff, ACHD, VRT, Parks. We have worked hard and long to get to this point and are both appreciative and proud of what we're presenting today. I will briefly touch on the site and then the CWI building. And in terms of just describing a little bit and to add on what the presentation that's been made in terms of building materiality, the concept and design for the building, we'll have our partner in the project, Mr. Rob Busan, who will provide a little bit more detail and granular information. We also have, and I would mention that Nick Miller is here. This is a CWI project. CWI is the flagship. This is their property. We're the developer on their behalf. And without CWI, we don't have a site here. So that's the focus, and that's the direction of the presentation today is bringing CWI downtown for its students and what that offers and the ancillary benefits that can provide the community. As was mentioned, this is a 10-acre parcel that's located right at the corner of Whitewater and Main Street. It is MX5 mixed use downtown under the modern zoning. It will, again, feature the CWI building as the paramount and focal point that sits prominently on Whitewater and Main Street. It will feature a mixed-use site that has a lot that CWI students can use, right? So rather than build a cafeteria inside, there will be restaurants, retail, office, hospitality, and residential supporting uses. I think one of the most vibrant and interesting components of this site is its connectivity to the Greenbelt. And we have worked with Parks, with the city to ensure, as I will demonstrate here in a moment, that this site provides a public amenity to the entire community where there can be a pathway so that others, not just students, can access Quinn's Pond, can access the Greenbelt and the river. What we have coming in under this application, though there is a larger site, there will be a garage and residential, there will be retail and a hotel. What's before you today are the two components, the site that's necessary to bring the CWI building online. And that includes the interior private drive aisle with the public easement, the landscaping, the frontage, so that there is connectivity between Whitewater and internal circulation going down to Main, so that the students, when they have that experience, the utilities, everything that'll be necessary to bring the CWI building online. On the site itself, I would mention, and it was alluded to earlier, but along the northern portion of the site from Whitewater connecting down in that roundabout area to the river, we have a dedicated pedestrian pathway so that the schools nearby, those who are trying to access the river, their access isn't denied in any way. In fact, it's enhanced. So we're proud of that feature of this site as well. Moving to the building itself, I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Busan, as I alluded to, but this particular, this building itself is 8 stories. It's itself mixed use. As will be discussed more thoroughly, it includes the community college, there's ground floor retail, and there's leasable office space that CWI can essentially grow into. It's future-proofed for their future development. There's pedestrian access along the building directly into the retail space from Main Street, from Whitewater, and interior to the plaza. And as will be discussed, the design of this building seeks to strike that balance as bringing an affordable product for CWI and its students, while at the same time ensuring that the quality is high level, top class design. And I think that we've tried to strike that balance. We'll continue to collaborate with staff and make sure that this is perfected. But with that sort of introduction, I'd like to turn time over, with your permission, to Rob, who can talk about the building materiality a little bit more.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, if you would please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, of course. Rob Busan with Home Architects, 3608 West Burke, Boise, Idaho, 83703. So thanks for the introduction, Ton. So looking at this building, and actually, as Ton alluded to, kind of leaning into the guinea pig process with this new DR. In addition to that, we had multiple meetings at our office with, I guess, former planning director Keen and Josh and some others through this process. So we've been leaning into that new process and going a little bit further as well. So through that, we started to manipulate this mass and break it down into smaller pieces. Most notably, lower level on the first 2 floors, we've got that projection that comes out to address the interesting property line. Then it tiers back to a more modular building geometry. The overall building, there we go, kind of split down the middle with the vertical circulation stack and main entry for the lobby on both sides. These 2 different geometries treated in different tones of material and separated with some glazing. Overall, the building facade articulation and materiality focused on the lower levels, enhancing that experience for the pedestrian. The first floor will be retail as well as lobby space, nice and active. High quality materials at that level with awnings and entrances, entry canopies for those future tenants. Along along the first floor, there's openings into those tenants, those storefronts, and activating that streetscape, not only along Whitewater, Main Street, and the plaza. Extra material palette, as noted, we concentrated the high quality materials at the lower level, so they are tangible and visible to the pedestrians, enhancing that pedestrian experience, and then tapering off to other materials as further up the facade for the building. So that's what we've got here. Take any questions or comments or.
Questions? I guess a couple here, just to maybe start back. Can you switch around back to that kind of pedestrian? Yeah, right there. So we've got this brick element that kind of, I guess, celebrates the corner, but I guess is there any other brick on the buildings proposed? There's a couple little spots.
So for the most part, on the first floor and the second floor, we're pulling brick all the way up, and then transitioning to other materials above that. So we've got brick here kind of in this pilaster formation, flanked by metal panel, where the signs are located. At the second floor line.
Okay. I guess on this one, when we looked at it compared to a few of the other recent applications in here, this doesn't seem particularly pedestrian oriented. It's just not a lot of canopy coverage here, just a few door situations. Like, did you investigate other, weather protection or canopy or getting the street level brought down to the pedestrian level at all on this particular elevation?
Yes, we did look at a number of different options here. Because of the scale of the building, those canopies ended up at the second floor line to help work with the proportionality of the overall scheme. When they were lower, it really felt more condensed and compressed, in our opinion.
Guess one more, unless somebody else has anything you want to jump in. Patrick, you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Rob, can you go back 2 slides
Yeah.
or that one works? So walk me through once. So this green color, is that metal panel?
So above the third floor on the right-hand side of the
Yes.
image. So that's EFS.
That's EFS?
Yes.
So essentially the entire building's EFS, besides for the corner, which is brick.
The first 2 floors are predominantly metal panel and brick, and above that we have a mixture of glass and EFS. And actually looking at the material takeoff, the building is not predominantly EFS, although it is a major material across the facade.
Got it. And I guess, yeah, in general, I like the massing. It feels a little confused in terms of the color change, this kind of vertical element splitting the two areas. I guess, can you just kind of talk
Sure.
to kind of the vertical element, and then I guess why the color change?
I guess on the color change, looking for gray is not necessarily green. I think that's quality of the various different screens we're looking at right now, but the intent is to have a couple different tones of gray. But nonetheless, with the vertical circulation stack there, so that's, in our mind, that was splitting the facade into a couple different elements. That was some that came up in conversation, as I mentioned, when we had design charrettes with other members of staff. And it creates a nice wayfinding opportunity, announces the entryway, and creates a signage opportunity as well as highlighting the vertical circulation.
Got it. So the sign on there right now is what's proposed.
Not necessarily that font, not necessarily exactly that, but that would be a location for signage.
Got it.
Well, we're here on that view, that extended lower brick portion there that's 2 stories. Is that an accessible roof space on top of that, right there on the corner?
That is not the intent.
Okay. Can you jump back to the site plan real quick? Couple of, maybe we're kind of walking through the layout of the whole project. CWI prominently on the corner seems, and wanting their identity. I guess the thing that appears to be kind of missed on this particular site plan is just the interaction with the greenbelt itself. It looks like potentially some patio chairs kind of squeezed in there between the future hotel and partially on the retail. But if I kind of look at the overall frontage on the greenbelt, a good portion of it's the roundabout, then you got a hotel, then we got a bunch of circulation, kind of the elbow path of the circulation path, and then another building that doesn't really address the green belts at all. I guess is the intention to turn it more internal? Or I was trying to figure out what the thought pattern was on how to address the green belt here.
Yeah, and so for these two applications, we're looking just at the not grayed out portion of this. Those will be future applications.
Yeah, I guess on the conceptual approval pieces that we're looking at, I'm guessing that we're kind of looking at the overall massing and development portions of how this is going to get developed, not just the building.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'm happy to address that. We have, in addition, a floodplain application, a river system application they're in for review. And I'd be happy to share those materials as a potential supplement to this. The river system, it's actually one of the prominent features of this site. As you can follow the kind of the interior of the site as you're coming down from the CWI building, in between kind of those both stacks of those buildings in this plaza-like feel, it will spill onto and invite both traffics from pedestrians coming both ways, both from the river. If you can imagine those coming from Quinn's Pond along the greenbelt, it will open up. And it's not, to Rob's point, we didn't bring all of those materials for this application, but there to the south of the hotel, as you're following along that path, it will, in very plaza-like fashion, open up as an invitation both ways into the interior of the site. Notably along the northern pathway, the pedestrian, it goes just to the north of that turnaround there. So we're working with Parks. In fact, we had a meeting with them just this week. That will be a drop-off area where people can come and there'll be a pull-out area where they can drop their kayaks, their equipment. They can then literally from there spill right down onto the pathway. So I love the question and I appreciate that focus, for that has been the driving focus of how do we integrate this site with the river? How do we make it so that it's not just connected, but an entire enhancement of that whole Quinn's Pond area?
So is there actually, I mean, it looks like it's potentially like a fire department turnaround, maybe on the end of that as well. But I mean, is there actually going to be parking? I mean, is there room on that turnaround to have people drop off, load, and still get, and that, I know this is a future stage, but.
Yeah,
that's still
Mr.
being
Chair,
checked.
Commissioners, the fire department actually, as we're working with them, they actually don't need that
Okay.
as fire. That is specifically and intentionally for access to the river. So as we've been working with Parks and as late as Monday, our meeting with this week with them, we continue to develop that out where with our floodplain application, our river system application, that will be an amenity specific to those wanting to access the river. So it will have a functionality. There won't be parking in that turnaround. There'll be public parking in the garage, but the whole point of that place is getting people there, an unloading zone, if you will. And then, as I said, if you follow the pathway just south of that, underneath the hotel, there'll be patio seating. There'll be, connectivity for that real friendly pedestrian experience. And then, of course, spilling into that real legacy featured plaza experience where you can go to and from the site directly from the river.
One other question while we've got the slide up. So I was looking at the floor plan. So the trash looks like it's kind of where that drop-off zone is, right? Maybe below where the letter G is in building. How does the trash work in this
Yeah.
building? I guess so it looks like it comes out to Main Street.
Wonderful question. In this particular, and working with the city specifically, we adopted their recommendation for us. The trash will actually be located centrally in the garage. And then almost in catered fashion, if you will, each building will have a interior to itself building where property management will come in and pick up and take the trash back to the centrally located designated spot. So the trash will not be, picked up, and that was one of the pieces of early feedback, is that we can't have trash facilities and having them cut across that bike path.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think I want to kind of in the same vein about the interaction with the river and the greenbelt here. For site circulation vehicularly, is that the road that comes down past the hotel and then hooks back into what looks like maybe there's some on-street parking in there, some angled parking or parallel parking between the future garage and the retail building that's along Main Street? Is that intended to be a major vehicular circulation route? Is there something that could be done there where, that is not as highlighted as much of a vehicular path and could be more plaza-like that still accommodate traffic, but just trying to think of a way to enhance that pedestrian space, because I like what I'm hearing in terms of what you guys are planning for interaction with the river there. It feels like there's just a little bit of a lost opportunity with cars getting that close to that space. And this probably goes with how your garage, where that is accessed from and stuff too. I know that you're trying to serve everybody within this overall development, but just an idea of trying to, that access from your really great looking plaza up by the CWI building, creating that sort of access through the site where you could have a terminus at the Greenbelt right there that, sort of Grove-esque, if you will, where you could drive through there if you need to, but you're not encouraging vehicles to go through it.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Semple, what you've just described is exactly the vision. I'm not just saying that, to placate. It's to accommodate traffic, but not as the feature. You mentioned kind of a Grove-esque. This is a double-edged sword, the term I'm about to use, but it's very village-esque in Meridian, where it's meant to, there has to be some type of accommodation to get vehicular traffic through there, but not at all the primary function or feature of that. If you think about the village, cars are going through there, but it is a pedestrian-heavy, pedestrian-first experience. And that will bring students from the parking garage to the CWI building on the weekends. That building you just referred to that's just across that drive aisle from CWI, that'll be a high-end retail building. And that experience as you're walking through there is definitely to invite pedestrians to and from the river, while still allowing for some access through as required to get through those for fire and likewise.
Right, I was imagining that sorry, Mr. Chair, I was imagining that was for emergency access through there, because if you're not using that cul-de-sac, that's the drop off.
Correct.
By the river. Okay, that's what I anticipated. Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go
I
ahead.
had another question, kind of going back to the elevations. I like the treatment on the corner here with the brick. It feels like the western side on the other side of that vertical circulation maybe isn't held to the same high standard as the corner here. And I know you have some brick there, but it feels like it stops a little short, I guess, in height, where you have this red brick band that hits that, even if it's a different color brick, that carries further to the west there, just to really anchor that lower level. Just a thought. I mean, it feels like the brick was just kind of added. And yeah, the amount of EFS, the conditions of approval talk about trying to find some other materials, which I think is very important on this, because it feels very much like a suburban office building a little bit. And I think that with the location being so prominent by the river, it's right in downtown Boise pretty much. So it feels like it deserves to have a little bit of elevation of materials in that space. And thank you for talking about trash, because that was one of my questions too on the floor plan.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Simple, if I could, respond it. We, as with any project, there's a needle to thread, to be sure. We weigh the balance of, on the one hand, affordability for CWI, while at the same time ensuring that there's a high quality product that's going to be a landmark site for CWI. And to your point, it's in this pristine area right by the river. So striking that balance, we continue to have that discussion. We're appreciative of the collaboration that we've had, the feedback that we've received. And I think we can say proudly, we have received that feedback and incorporated it. And we will continue to do so at the work session so that we can strike what is that very difficult balance. That's our goal, is to get there.
So while we have this elevation, if you're accessing the upper floors from Main Street and the main pedestrian corridor there along Main, is it just that one little canopy to get to the lobby? So I guess if I'm looking at that right, I guess there's the CWI Whitewater Village vertical, and if you go down to the base, you just to the left, is it just that one little door that's kind of the entrance to the whole office building, I guess?
I'll let Rob, I'm just the attorney. I'm going to let Rob speak if that's okay.
Yeah, it appears that.
With your permission.
Yes, please. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if we can, I'll switch around to maybe starting with the site. Yeah, thank you. Just referencing the site plan really quick. So we do have this parking structure that's meant to house most of the parking for the site. So we assume that students and users of this building would be coming from the parking garage. So look to that northern facade to be the primary entrance for the users of the site. So with that, flipping around to the interior, apologies, wasn't ready for that question, but I think we have it in the other packet if we can reference that. But off to the right of the stair tower you're seeing here is the primary entrance to this building itself. And happy to pull up that other.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the other entrance. Just, I guess the street entrance on Main Street seems it's like almost back of house-esque feeling, where it still seems like it could be a prominent pedestrian corridor there along the street. So that, yeah, what you're showing here is the anticipated main entry for the building. Okay. Other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr.
This Tom might have to answer this one, but wondering if you guys could walk us through the phasing, in particular, how the parking will work for this initial building. If I understand it, there's no parking included with this initial building. So the assumption would be it'd be surface parked until the parking structure was constructed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I'd like to turn it back over to Tom for that one.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Bull, we have a phasing plan that was included, and the feedback that we have as part of the work session is to refine that phasing plan even further. Having said that, in response to your question, we currently have gone through and are in the process. We've been through the concept design stage and the interdepartmental review for what will be our next design review application for the garage. In terms of the means and method of construction, the timing of that, the anticipation is that the CWI building and the garage will actually start to be constructed at the same time. And so just the way that we phase this out, as shown in the purple with the CWI site, just to bring on the infrastructure needed for that building, that will, as we get through the work session, we will start submitting the construction drawings on that, and then the garage will follow right behind. Because of the length of time of both of those, they will both be brought online. The students of CWI are anticipating being able to access the building in the fall of 2026. And so all of this site, the truth is, with the phasing plan, as we are submitting these kind of in rapid fire, this whole site is going to have to come on at the same time. It won't work otherwise.
Understood. Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
It did. Yeah.
Other,
Mr. Chair.
yeah.
Real quick, this is, I mean, I know we're gonna go over the garage in the future. I guess I just wanted to, in looking at access, is the access into that garage on the northeast side adjacent to that residential? Is there access off of the north side? On that one access drive, it seems like it would be a good opportunity to keep cars on kind of that side of the project.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Simple, that the intent is as people come off of Whitewater into the interior of the site, the access to the garage is on that. It's not off the plaza side and to enter into that garage.
And is there an entrance on the hotel side? Do you know?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So on the garage, it looks like
Oh.
there's one on the east side of that
Yes.
garage. And then is there one on the west side closer to the
correct.
garage? Or
That's
the
correct.
hotel? Okay.
But nothing interior to the plaza, or in
Right.
other words, as part of that retail experience, that pedestrian friendly experience, to the very point we were talking about before. Want to keep cars out of there. So there's no entrance to the garage on that site. In fact, that will be retail as well and residential wrapped around that portion of the garage.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions for the applicant?
Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, one more question. I ask this every time. You guys are in agreement with the conditions of approval in the staff report?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Simple, we are certainly in agreement that we need to work through those conditions. We anticipated coming here tonight that there would be an opportunity for a workshop session. And we look forward to that and to continue that collaboration, to work through those and find that right landing spot.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Great. Thank you very much. Neighborhood Association here at all, Josh? No? Are there members of the public wishing to testify to this application tonight? Seeing none in person. Josh, have anybody online? Oh, yes. Please come forward if you would. Yeah, no, you're great. If you would just state your name and address for the record too.
Lauren Panisi, 2411 West Pleasanton Ave, Boise 83702. I am a resident of this neighborhood, the West End neighborhood. So very interested in this project, very concerned about the size and scope of it and how it'll affect our neighborhood during construction and afterward. My main comment is to piggyback off Commissioner Semple's, is this is in a primo location, and the design, the look, the colors, the everything should reflect that. And I am concerned that maybe that's not exactly happening. I know that there's a balance with materials, construction cost, and all of those things. So that is a difficult balance to strike. But the other side of that is you have a wonderful, beautiful place to locate this complex. So I just agree with you very much that that should be taken into consideration. So that's my main comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wishing to testify? Seeing none online. Applicant have any further words?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, really appreciate that feedback. As we continue, we've had several neighborhood meetings there and will continue to do so. With our experience having been in other projects building downtown, we are very cognizant of the fact that when it comes to construction, we have to work with the neighbors. We have to work with the surrounding community. You have to have effective laydown yards. You have to be able to, I mean, we're currently doing that right now with our ICCU project. And having had some really complicated projects in the heart of downtown, we will commit to continue to address those concerns, not only to bring the best product online, but to be good neighbors when it's time to actually make this happen and bring it to life.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, with that, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and on motion. I guess I do want to thank the applicant for the quality of the renderings and the materials that you submitted tonight. That is very much appreciated. And this is a very anticipated project, and I think the commission as well as the community is very excited to have this development move forward. Anybody have any thoughts, comments they want to share at this point?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right, Mr. Chair. Yeah, like you're saying, it's been anticipating that site getting redeveloped for quite a while now. It'll be nice to not have a surface parking lot there. I do agree with the staff's recommendations on the amount of EFS, and I understand construction costs. It's not, we don't want to try to make you build something that breaks the bank and you can't build it because it costs too much. But I think that trying to find that quality of material, maybe some different glazing options or some stuff like that that can take place of some of that EFS. I think I talked about the brick on the western half of that CWI building. I think, again, just reinforcing the strength of that base, which I think kind of is lost a little bit as it moves west. We've seen a lot of stuff, and I think everybody here probably is familiar with the term Boise beige that seemed to be built a lot. This is trending more towards the gray, but, I would say we're all right with some, being a little more creative with color. I enjoy seeing something that's a little more impactful. It doesn't have to be hot pink or anything like that, but it just felt very flat, I guess, with a lot of gray, a lot of plain that's the same color or variations of gray like that. So that's kind of my comment on it. I appreciate it does sound like we'll be seeing this on a couple different work sessions that come back for site plan. And I'm encouraged from what I'm hearing on the integration of the Greenbelt and the Riverside area and that pedestrian interface. I think that there's so many projects that have been built along the river that do not embrace that. And when we've mentioned it, they kind of play at lip service a little bit. And so I'm excited to see what you guys come back with at some of those work sessions. And I do appreciate all the stuff that you guys have presented tonight. Again, excited to see a project come online there.
Thank you, Mr. Simple.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Ball.
I completely agree with Commissioner Semple. I guess first on the point of color, I was actually quite disappointed that it wasn't a green. I think a green could be really interesting. But I would encourage you to maybe just be a little bit more color forward. And then as we're talking about, striking a balance of, cost and being able to build this thing, I would encourage you to look at the, simplifying the massing and simplify the massing and then put dollars into the facade. So in my opinion, I don't think you need this kind of large vertical element. I don't think you need to split the building up in any sort of way. I'd actually be more comfortable with like a larger massing, some repetition, and then you put those dollars back into a higher quality facade material. And then I think the ground level needs a lot of work, in particular, on Main Street there. I just think it's really lacking, just at the pedestrian level. Can't quite put my finger on it, but I think, to your point, Mr. Chair, I think enhancing the entrances, I think more canopies. And again, if you had a higher quality material on that ground level, I think that would really help. But it is a tricky site, looking at this. It's like you've got Main Street, you've got the big corner there, but you also want to kind of face the river and the Greenbelt and everything. So it's tricky. There's definitely some challenges here, but I really think this needs a bit more work. And I don't know if that happens through a work session or if they should just take it back, kind of work with staff and then bring it back before us. But yeah, really, I think I'm really uncomfortable with the amount of EFS on this thing. So
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I agree with Commissioner Bull. I feel like splitting the building is sort of saying that the building isn't good enough to just be one building. I think anytime you have to try to like diffuse the massing of a building, it's a statement on the quality of the building. And I think that this is a hugely important corner, a really important site. And while I'm thrilled that it's finally getting developed, I was hoping it would be a little bolder. I'm afraid that it's gonna feel and look a little more like a suburban office park than it is like a mixed-use campus. I'm excited about the mixed-use part. I think the concept is really cool. I just think it needs to look as cool as the use is calling for. A place that's full of young people with a bright future ahead of them, I think, needs to make a greater statement. And the second floor coming out to the corner, I get the whole step back thing, but it somehow isn't working. It feels a little bit too ship-like. Or I don't know, something is awkward about the way the building steps up from 2 stories to taller. And yeah, I'd really like to see it not split in half. Because it's part of a greater development. I think if it was standing on its own, then maybe that would make more sense. But it doesn't make sense to me when it's just one of 5 buildings.
Other thoughts or comments? So Josh, I guess on this one, we are, just as a clarification, conceptual approval. I'm sorry, Caitlin, conceptual approval, what are we? I mean, there's going to be multiple steps as this thing progresses through the design phase. Can you maybe just describe real quick, because we don't do conceptual approvals every day?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So this, the DRH 2431. 3031. So that is for the site improvements. It was specifically so that they can construct the area that they showed. Josh, could you share the screen again, actually? So they are looking for approval to construct the area shown in that pink color. But we do need you to kind of sign off on the whole project, obviously, because if there is anything you want adjusted in those future phases, now would be the time to look at that overall site plan as well. So that's part of the conceptual approval, but they are looking for approval to construct the improvements on that pink part.
Okay. Do you mind sharing your recommended condition or, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Questions for applicant? Anybody want to take a stab at a motion? Is it clear enough what we're making a motion on?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This is a question for staff. With the condition of approval C, does our motion need to include a replacement of northwest with northeast?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Semple, yes, please.
Okay.
Would you like a motion?
Absolutely. So I guess we have 2 motions. Do you want them separated, I guess, right? Or, yeah, so we'll just do, first motion is just on item 31, which is the kind of the overall development. 37. And are we gonna actually open 37 up separately, or do we cover everything on 37? We covered everything. Gotcha. Okay. So 37 is the building, 31 is kind of the conceptual site.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve DRH 24000031, subject to the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended conditions contained in the project report, including a future public work session.
Okay, so moved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
does the motioner's motion include the revision to condition of approval C to replace northwest with northeast?
Indeed, it does.
Second.
So we got a motion, second discussion on the motion. Do we need a date specific at all on the work session? We can just leave it open.
Mr. Chair, we were recommending that the applicant could work on that list of items and return when they feel they have everything on that list.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any discussion on the motions? If not, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Simple.
Aye.
Marsh.
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
Bull.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
So now we still got the motion more on the building piece as well. Which I think is where we spent a good chunk of our discussion points. I don't know if there's any other further, maybe want to take a stab at motion, any further discussion on the building portion at all? I think it's been pretty clearly expressed on some of the concerns the commission has.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Because we have so many concerns, is there would it maybe be better to wait to see if there are any changes before voting to approve it or not? Yeah, it's more than the usual modifications, it feels
Yeah.
like. I don't know, I would not support a motion with the building as it is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would not either. And I don't know if the motion is to deny it or if you can just,
We don't have to deny it, but we could, guess we can continue it into another, well, I guess we can continue it or push it off to a work session prior to, what are our options, I guess, Keelan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, you could defer the application. It's kind of a similar result in that they're coming back with an updated design to you when they're ready.
There we go.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
a
Mr.
question for staff. So is that, if it's deferred, that's another, just the standard public hearing? And that would allow them to change materials and then we could still have a public work session to talk about detail, stuff like that too.
Yep, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, that is correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, one more question. Do we
Yes.
need to defer to a date specific?
Um,
If that was what the motion was?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Semple, if we do not defer to a date specific, we do have to do all the renoticing. So it is preferred that we pick a date specific. And if they're not ready by that time, we can defer again to another date specific.
Thank you.
April 10th is our next hearing date.
Everybody's looking at me. Mr. Chair.
No pressure.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move that we defer DRH 24-37 to the design review hearing on April 10th, 2024, to allow the applicant time to make revisions to the design per the conditions of approval that were contained in the staff report and per our discussion up here tonight.
Okay,
Second.
so moved and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, can we do a roll call vote?
Simple.
Aye.
Marsh.
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
Bull.
aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. That concludes all of our items for tonight. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.